What is up, guys? Today we're going to be finding out how Romain Grosjean survived that big crash. The crash at 160 miles per hour into a steel wall, causing his car to explode into a ball of flames. If you are new here, my name is Adam. Welcome in. Feel free to get comfy, take your shoes off, make yourself a cup of tea. Let's watch a crazy video.
That's a miracle.
I have not seen a car like that in my time commentating on Formula One. I've never seen a Formula One car do that.
But the flames are already erupting all around you.
Initially, if I take through from that point, it's 28 seconds, but for me it looks more like 1 minute 30, and you will see through the explanation. So
Already wheel to wheel with Valtteri Bottas, and there is Alex Albon on the inside of Bottas as well, and Perez coming up on the inside of Verstappen, who is now in second place. Hamilton, Verstappen, Perez, then Albon and Ricciardo. Bottas has lost 4 places already as they file their way through, and Lance Stroll going off the track already, and is that damage for Lando Norris? That's certainly damage, and a big fire there as they exited out of turn 3, and that looks very nasty indeed, and unsurprisingly, that is a red flag.
They had this crash 100 times over, 99 out of 100 times the driver's dead.
It was in the year 2020 on the 29th of November when Romain Grosjean's horrific car crash accident took place. His car crashed at 137 miles per hour with an impact force of 53 Gs.
Jesus.
His car hit so badly into the metal barriers that it split into 2 and scattered into pieces through the metal barrier. It also completely burst into flames. The header cockpit protection device had been decisive in keeping him alive, but unfortunately he was immediately surrounded by a huge fireball and was completely trapped in the car on flames. But then a miracle happened, something that nobody expected, not even Grosjean himself, which was his mind-blowing escape. He magically escaped out of the car with only his hands and ankle burnt. He was in a state of shock at that moment because he thought that it was the last day of his life. Welcome back to another video of F1 Sports. In today's video we're going to discuss about Romain Grosjean's crash in detail. But before we get started with today's video, make sure to hit that red subscribe button and also click on the notification bell so you get notified whenever we post a new video like this one. Now without further ado, let's get right into our new video. Grosjean explained his escape in his recent interview in detail and also talked about everything that happened to him during his adventurous escape. He was driving pretty smoothly as always, but suddenly, his car somehow went out of his control and went off the track and hit hard into the metal barriers with a huge blast. As you can see, it was a nearly impossible yet a quick escape. He explained that how everything happened in a flick of an eye. He mentioned that when he opened his eyes, he firstly tried to remove his seatbelt. He also mentioned that at the time, he was completely surrounded by flames and all he could see was just orange light around him that looked exactly like the sunset. He tried to get up and jump out of the car, but something in the car hit his head. So he sat down again and waited for someone to come and save him. During that time, Niki Lauda's thoughts were coming to his mind and he said to himself that this can't be my last race and I can't end up like this. At this moment, he tried to get up again but failed. He completely lost all his hopes and sat down, waiting to see which part of his body burns first, and thought that he was going to die and it was the last day of his life.
Yo, thinking about that mind process of in your head, you know you're gonna die and you're just sitting there waiting to see which part of you starts to go on fire first. That's fucking horrifying to me.
A lot of negative thoughts revolving around his head, but then suddenly the thought of his kids came to his mind. He wanted to see them and wanted himself to be alive for them. At this moment, he got his hope back and tried to escape out of the car as quickly as he could. He twisted his head, turned his body, and tried very hard to get out of the car, but his foot was stuck inside the car with the pedal. So he sat down again on his seat and took his foot out calmly, and then he twisted himself again to come out of the car, and then he jumped on the barrier. It was really hard for him to escape because he was badly stuck inside the car, and it was a huge task to get out of the car as it was completely on fire. But his escape turned out to be successful. His This event was a testament to the decades of safety work undertaken by F1 and the governing body, the FIA, including the introduction of the Halo cockpit protection device. Based on what we know so far, there are the key factors that prevented a tragedy unfolding in the Bahrain Grand Prix. How the barrier gave way. The ferocity of the crash was rooted in the speed Grosjean was travelling and the lack of time to decelerate before the sudden impact with the barrier after he collided with the Alpha Tower of Daniel Kvyat. Grosjean hit the barrier at an angle rather than head-on. High-force crashes are not uncommon, but it's rare to see them occur with exposed barriers rather than with the added protection of Tech Pro or tyres. While questions have been raised about why the barrier failed in the way it did, it's possible that the sheer force of the crash combined with the angle of the hit meant that kind of barrier could never stand up to impact. The FIA's tools will have recorded the force of the accident, and it will be of great priority for the FIA to ascertain why the barrier was penetrated and if anything can be improved within the structure and that design in the future. That part of the circuit is certainly an unusual place for a car to go off, but a large part of the FIA safety work has always involved preparing for the unexpected.
I find that crazy.
Why the car split and caught on fire. Once the front end of the car had pierced the barrier, it became trapped. From that moment, to dissipate the energy involved, it was structurally unable to retain the rear of the car. With the monocoque containing the driver held in place, the energy led to the rear of the chassis coming away from the driver's survival cell. This part is designed and specified to firstly protect the driver in extreme impacts. The chassis being trapped in the barrier meant that the energy of the heaviest parts of the car, featuring the engine and gearbox, led to the structure around the fuel tank that is usually part of the survival cell failing. While the fuel cell is made of Kevlar and rubber and ballistically testing the impact of Grosjean's accident appears to have been extreme enough to have damaged it or torn out some of the connections leading to the fire. This structure is part of the survival cell and forms the closed bulkhead behind the driver that the engine bolts onto. The battery pack was among the debris that came away from the car in the impact, and it's a possibility that this very hot component could have played a part in igniting the fuel, something that fortunately we now see very rarely in F1. The Halo protection device and his high-tech suits, which also helped him a lot, as they did not allow his body to quickly come in direct contact with fire and other broken parts of the car, which helped him a lot during his escape. Also, his helmet was prevented from breaking because of the Halo device. Otherwise, his head would have been directly exposed and the injury could have been more severe, and it could have even caused death. He said this literally happened in 28 seconds, which was pretty quick. Luckily, all the rescue crew members quickly arrived and helped him jump out of the car swiftly.
Inside a flame.
When he came out of the car, his gloves were completely red,
burning for 28
and his
seconds
hands
seems
were
like
also badly
long
burned,
time to me.
and he had some extensive bruising as well. But overall, he was not hurt that badly. Everybody was in a state of shock when they saw him alive and walking out of the car. His facial expressions showed that he was completely fine. He described his feelings at the time as some extraordinary feelings. He was not even able to believe what he did. Although he was alive and just mildly burnt, he was immediately taken to the hospital by the rescue team in a medical vehicle for all the important medical examinations because of the burn on his hands and ankle, as well as his ribs, which were suspected to be broken. The medical team asked him for his wife's phone number, so he quickly gave his wife's phone number to them. They then made a voice call to her to let her know that her husband was fine and alive, with just some minor burns and bruises. His wife was happy when she heard that he was alive, but she got a bit upset as she heard about his injuries, and it was very difficult for her to stop herself from crying. It was a very emotional moment for her, but she was thankful that her husband was alive.
He's okay, lads.
People were also very happy after seeing him alive, but due to this accident, he was not able to race, which was a bit saddening. He soon made progress in recovery and got discharged from the hospital just after 4 days of his horrific and fearful accident. His return from the hospital was very emotional. He met everybody who helped in saving his life, including the rescue team, and thanked them all. He went home and rested to recover completely as soon as possible and helped heal his burnt hands and ankles. He was advised by the doctors to take good care of himself, which he did, and all of his injuries were getting better pretty quickly.
So cool.
This escape has made him the most liked and famous racer these days.
So he looks like such a nice guy
because of his bravery and courage that he showed during this escape, which seemed almost impossible. He really proved himself as a strong man. Everybody is very curious to know more and more about the dramatic story of Grosjean's great and miraculous escape. Such skills can only be found in a professional and well-skilled sportsman, and Romain Grosjean counts as one of them now. Alright guys, that's it for
That was
today's video.
awesome. Yo, F1 Sports, thank you for making this video, bro. I appreciate it. Great job. That's just crazy, isn't it? Like, how has he survived? Like I said at the start, I think we've done this race 100 times. 99 of those times, you ain't making it out alive. That was cool. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Maybe you learned something new today. Maybe you hadn't watched that before. Or maybe, you know, you just wanted to see how I reacted to it. But either way, thank you for getting to this point in the video. I appreciate it. Have yourselves a good day. See you later.